World War II, a global conflict of unprecedented scale, claimed the lives of an estimated 70 to 85 million people. This staggering number represents a devastating loss of human life, a scar etched deeply into the chronicles of human history. Yet beyond the sheer numbers lies a labyrinth of untold stories, of atrocities committed and suffering endured, often overshadowed by the dominant narratives of heroism and victory. This essay delves into the heart of this darkness, aiming to shed light on the often overlooked brutalities of World War II. It seeks to uncover the hidden atrocities, the war crimes committed by all sides, and the lasting impact on those who lived through the horrors of this global conflict. The Second World War is often portrayed through a lens of heroism and triumph. Stories of valiant soldiers, daring missions, and the eventual defeat of tyranny dominate popular memory. While these narratives rightfully celebrate the courage and resilience of those who fought for freedom, they often inadvertently obscure the darker side of the conflict. The reality of World War II was far more complex and devastating. Beyond the battlefields, a brutal and inhumane war raged, targeting civilians and soldiers alike. Prison camps became crucibles of suffering, cities were reduced to rubble, and entire populations were subjected to unimaginable horrors. To truly understand the war's legacy, we must confront these uncomfortable truths. Sanitized narratives of historical events, while perhaps more palatable, come at a steep cost. By ignoring the full extent of the horrors inflicted, we risk diminishing the suffering of millions and failing to learn from the mistakes of the past. When we sanitize history, we create a distorted image of the past, one that fails to convey the true cost of conflict. This selective amnesia can lead to a dangerous complacency, blinding us to the warning signs of future atrocities and hindering our ability to prevent their recurrence. It is only by confronting the darkest chapters of human history that we can hope to build a more just and peaceful future. Among the many atrocities committed during World War II, the Holocaust stands as a chilling testament to the depths of human depravity. Orchestrated by Nazi Germany, the systematic persecution and extermination of Jews remains one of history's most horrifying acts of genocide. Driven by a perverse ideology of racial superiority, the Nazis established a vast network of concentration camps across Europe. Within these camps, millions of innocent people, primarily Jews but also including Roma, homosexuals, political prisoners, and others deemed undesirable, were subjected to unspeakable horrors. Torture, starvation, forced labor, and mass extermination were the tools of this genocide, a systematic attempt to eradicate an entire people. Fire from the sky, the bombings of Dresden and Hiroshima. The Allied bombing campaigns of World War II, while strategically significant, also resulted in immense civilian casualties and widespread destruction. These bombings were part of a broader strategy to weaken enemy morale and infrastructure. The firebombing of Dresden, Germany, in February 1945, remains a particularly controversial event in the history of warfare. Over 3 days and nights, Allied bombers unleashed a devastating assault on the city, creating a massive firestorm that engulfed its historic center and killed an estimated 25,000 people, most of them civilians. The destruction was so extensive that it left the city in ruins. Months later, in August 1945, the United States dropped atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, marking a new era in warfare. The bombings, which remain the only use of nuclear weapons in warfare, resulted in the immediate deaths of an estimated 129,000 to 226,000 people, most of them civilians. Additionally, they caused long-term health effects for countless others due to radiation exposure, leaving a lasting impact on the survivors and their descendants. Shadows on all sides, war crimes across the globe. The horrors of World War II were not confined to any single nation or ideology. War crimes, acts of violence and cruelty that violate the accepted rules of war, were perpetrated by all sides of the conflict. Japanese forces committed atrocities throughout Asia, including the brutal rape of Nanking, in which an estimated 200,000 to 300,000 Chinese civilians were murdered, and countless others subjected to rape and torture. Soviet forces, while instrumental in defeating Nazi Germany, also engaged in widespread violence against civilians and prisoners of war, particularly in Eastern Europe. These acts of brutality serve as a stark reminder that war often unleashes the darkest impulses of humanity, transcending national boundaries and ideological divides. Whispers from the Ashes survivors' stories. The true cost of war can only be fully grasped through the personal stories of those who endured its horrors. Survivors of the Holocaust, the atomic bombings, and other atrocities carry with them haunting memories of loss, suffering, and resilience. These individuals have lived through unimaginable pain and hardship. Their testimonies serve as powerful reminders of the human toll of conflict, offering a window into the past that is both sobering and enlightening, and the enduring impact of trauma. The scars they bear, both visible and invisible, tell a story of survival against all odds. One survivor of the Hiroshima bombing, a young girl at the time, found herself in the midst of chaos and destruction, later recalled the blinding flash of light, the deafening roar and the overwhelming heat, and the immediate devastation that engulfed her city. The once vibrant streets were reduced to rubble and ash. She spoke of losing her family, witnessing unspeakable suffering, and the heart-wrenching cries of those around her, and the long shadow of radiation sickness that haunted the survivors. Her story, like countless others, is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, underscores the profound and lasting impact of war on individuals, families, and entire communities. These stories remind us of the importance of peace and the cost of conflict. The weight of remembrance. Remembering and acknowledging the full scope of World War II, including its darkest chapters, is not about dwelling on the past, but rather about honoring the memory of those who suffered and ensuring that such atrocities are never repeated. It is a solemn duty to keep the memories alive, to educate future generations about the horrors that unfolded. It is about recognizing the fragility of peace and the constant need for vigilance against hatred, intolerance, and violence. Peace is not a given, it is a continuous effort that requires the commitment of every individual and society as a whole. By confronting the uncomfortable truths of history, we gain a deeper understanding of the forces that shape our world. This understanding helps us navigate the complexities of the present and future. We learn from the mistakes of the past, recognizing the warning signs of prejudice and discrimination. This awareness is crucial in preventing the repetition of such dark chapters in human history. We cultivate empathy and compassion for those who have endured unimaginable suffering. Their stories serve as powerful reminders of the resilience of the human spirit, and we strengthen our resolve to build a future where such horrors are consigned to the history books, never to be repeated. Through education, remembrance, and active engagement, we can create a world that values peace and human dignity above all. Facing the uncomfortable truths. The path to reconciliation and a more just future requires a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about the past. This includes acknowledging the role that our own nations and societies may have played in perpetuating injustice or turning a blind eye to suffering. It demands a commitment to education, ensuring that future generations understand the full context of historical events, both the triumphs and the tragedies. And it necessitates an ongoing dialogue about the legacy of war, its impact on individuals and societies, and the lessons we can learn to prevent future conflicts. Honoring the past, shaping the future. Understanding the full scope of World War II with all its complexities and contradictions is not merely an academic exercise, it is a call to action, a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping a more just and peaceful world. Let us honor the memory of those who suffered and perished during that tumultuous period by committing ourselves to building a future free from hatred, violence, and oppression. Let us engage in meaningful dialogue, challenge injustice wherever we see it, and work tirelessly to ensure that the horrors of the past are never repeated. By confronting the darkness, we can strive to create a world bathed in the light of peace, understanding, and shared humanity.